All right, so let's talk about a topic that to me is very near and dear to the heart. It's the idea of storytelling. Now, I think we're familiar that in the work context, there's some element of storytelling that we need to do. What I want to talk about is how incredibly important that is for myself, how much early in my career I underrated storytelling, and how, as I've been able to become a more effective storyteller, how that's completely changed the game in terms of communication for me, and I think it can have the same effect for you. So, there's a tendency for some folks to believe that you have this message, whatever it might be, maybe a project idea you have, a change, a philosophy, whatever you want to communicate, and you think it should stand on its own merits. You've got a great idea, look, here's the facts, the case laid out, everyone should just get it, it should click. That's sort of the mindset that I had early in my career. Is just like, the case alone will win. Reality is, boy, I learned in the most painful ways possible that simply isn't true. And so there's at least 50% of the equation is the storytelling and the messaging around what we want to say, what we want to convey to others, so that we can persuade them and lead them to our way of thinking. And so what I have seen, some recent examples, is we're preparing for strategic planning right now, and some content around messaging for different departmental functions. But what I've noticed is there's not a bow tied around it. So we're going to do project A and project B and project C. But I, as the audience, a listener, or somebody, a co-participant, the question I continue to have, and I ask it, and I don't ask it in a way that's meant to be condescending, but I know it kind of could sound like that, is why? Like, who cares? And obviously you care, right? That's why you're presenting the content. You may have others in your functional area that care, but when you're speaking to a broader audience, you're speaking to me about something, I'm going, well, that's not my thing. Why should I care? And I think this is where storytelling becomes absolutely critical, because you can draw me into your message, you can get me excited about the topic. Now I'm going to listen, and often what people don't hear is the merits of your very own case, because they've zoned out, they've lost interest, they've just not bought into where you're going. And so one of my recent talks, what I shared was an example of, we are surrounded by competitive giants. We have Goliaths around us, and we are the David in this battle, right? And so I was sharing some financial data and modeling, but really the message was this battle of David versus Goliath, and that's what got people interested, talking about the challenge, how we have this struggle, but we're going to overcome. What does this evoke? An emotional response. You really connect with the material. You could literally picture a little David with his slingshot, right, out there fighting against these giant Goliaths surrounding. And so instead of talking about what I had, which was financial numbers and charts and spreadsheets with the line, up and to the right kind of thing, instead, what I talked about really was a story of an underdog coming to fight and win against larger competitors. And it made all the difference in the world, because people were like, wow, this is a great presentation, we really connect with it. And the key was not so much my content, my slides. My slides weren't even that good. My PowerPoint was kind of unrefined and unpolished. But what I sat down was, I looked at so the content I had and said, what is the overarching message? What is the theme? What is the story that I want to tell? Another example, I worked with a peer. We were talking about where we're going. We're looking to repeat an achievement that we've had, and some folks are worried, well, how are you going to do that? Once you've reached your achievement, doesn't it all stop? And the example I gave there was for our local sports team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've just won the Super Bowl. I said, what do you think the Buccaneers plan on doing after winning the Super Bowl? Do you think they just rest on their laurels? They're going to go take a little nap, go hang out at the beach? No. The focus is to come back and win it again, another Super Bowl. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that's the plan, is to come back and win it again. That's what every team's plan. Every NFL football team at the beginning of the season, their plan is to win a Super Bowl, right? And so that's such a different message than just talking about slides and talking about raw content. And so what I typically do is take at least 20, 30 minutes before number one, before any important presentation, you always, always, always have to take the time to prepare. And so I will often sort of think my presentation through in my head as though I'm saying it aloud, but I'm kind of running it through in my head, and then sometimes I'll be in the car and I'm just going to talk it to myself. I will literally go through and say, I don't ever have a script verbatim, but I kind of know a base of what I want to share, and then I'll walk through it, and some things I will like and some things I won't, and I'll say it a little different the next time, and I'll iterate. And often after a few iterations of going through my presentation, maybe have 5-10 minute presentation, I would expect to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour in preparation time. And so along with that practice, usually what I'm trying to think is, what's an analogy? Maybe this is like a car engine. Maybe this is like a birthday cake with candles on top. Maybe this is like a race car driving down a city street. Maybe this is like a spoon and a spatula with a hole in it. I don't know. I try to think about these parallels of what something might be like that are tangible objects, things or experiences we can relate to, and then that's what I try and weave in as the overarching story. So if I wanted to talk about, maybe you've got a new project that's going to create efficiencies and it's going to save us $10,000 and it only costs us $1,000, and so your thought would be, hey, this is a slam dunk, spend $1,000, save 10 grand, like that's a real easy business case. But what I would talk about, although I would share the spend 1,000 to save 10,000, I would talk about what we're trying to do, that we have a mindset here of efficiency. We're focused on how do we get the maximum value out of the organization. We don't sit here idle, just relaxing. We're investing our energy in how, we're thinking about how do we solve problems. And so something like that. Now, I think each situation is unique, and so I can't tell you for all situations, but you have to tell a story about what you're doing, why you're doing, and make people have an emotional response. The thought is, we're all kind of logical, rational creatures and we respond to logic, but in my experience, I think people, myself included, are far from logical, rational creatures. We think that's true, but we are like some overwhelming percentage, 80-90% emotion based. We use logic to, after the fact, justify these emotional decisions that we've made. But I think the truth is, you've got to evoke an emotional response to get people excited and to really engage in your content. So one example, we talked about goal setting and goal achievement, and we talked about how that's like climbing a mountain. And so imagine you're climbing Mount Everest, right? What are your goals in being able to climb Mount Everest? And what are the milestones along the way? Well, first you got to get out there and just do some exercise, right? Then you got to start training, and maybe you're hiking up some hills and some steeper hills, and you're carrying heavy packs on your back, and then you're hiking up hills with heavy packs on your back in cold conditions, right? And now this is something that I could picture somebody preparing to climb Everest. Well, many of our challenges in the workplace are like climbing Everest. So try and really think about, what are these examples that people could connect to, that, there's an emotional response to picturing someone climbing Everest. Wow, how brave, how scary, how frightening that might be, worrying about all the things that could go wrong, but persevering in spite of it. So my message here is, take the time to really slow down, prepare, identify what are some stories or key themes that are overarching my topic, and not just the elements that I need to talk about. The elements need to be there. That's ultimately what gets you to the finish line. But if you don't capture the attention, if you don't capture the hearts of your audience, it's that way for me. When people are boring, I just stop listening. I just zone out, and I shouldn't. I try to pay attention, but sometimes people just lose me because they talk, but I don't know where you're going. I don't know what journey I'm on. I don't know why I should come with you. And so this is my key message. I think I'm going to break this down into some more pieces and really talk about, sort of the science of how do you break this apart. But I really want to at least start with an introductory discussion on storytelling. So I hope you can take what you've learned from this and apply it to your next chance to present to a group, to communicate a message. And don't worry about perfection. The focus should be on progress. Can you make a little bit better of a story? Can you make a little deeper emotional connection? Can you move that balance more 50-50 with content and storytelling? And it's baby steps. You don't get there the first time, but can you make progress and can you improve? So good luck with all that, and I hope you find it helpful.